Now the news, Australia is set to bring forward nearly $630 million in defence spending as part of its federal budget. Defence Minister Richard Marles says the funding increase is aimed at boosting the country's military capability and to prepare for an AUKUS submarine base. Roger Maynard has details.
This is being seen as a major boost to Australia's defence spending. The actual figures will be officially confirmed in tomorrow's budget, but Defence Minister Richard Marles gave a foretaste of its scale and significance at the Avalon Air Show in Victoria earlier today.
And in the federal budget, there will be an increase in defence spending over the forward estimates of $10.6 billion. This is the most significant increase in defence spending in peacetime Australia since the end of the Second World War. Part of the $10.6 billion sees bringing forward an additional $1 billion. And that's because of the need to accelerate Australia's capability development.
In reality, none of this is new money as such. The $10.5 billion Australian dollar increase in government spending over the next 4 years was part of a previously announced $50 billion boost over the next decade, and this is merely part of that plan. But by bringing some of this expenditure forward, it'll ensure that the ambitious timelines the government is facing will be met. But what does it all mean in a practical sense? Well, it'll make sure that HMAS Stirling, the naval base at Perth in Western Australia, will be readied in time for the rotation of US nuclear-powered submarines. Up to 4 United States and 1 British-commanded submarine will rotate through Perth from 2027 as part of the AUKUS agreement between Australia, Britain and the US. The multi-billion-dollar defence boost will also help to move forward at a faster pace in establishing a guided weapons and explosives enterprise, as well as the purchase of new general-purpose frigates. Today's announcement will help to reinforce the three-way AUKUS deal, which will cost Australia an estimated 368 billion Aussie dollars over the next 3 decades. And it'll be a clear signal to Australia's Asian and Pacific neighbours that Canberra is serious about defending its interests and maintaining freedom of the seas in this part of the world, a commitment that will not go unnoticed by China. It also comes at a time when Australia is coming under increasing pressure from the Trump administration to further lift its annual defence spending by more than $25 billion a year. At the moment, Australia's defence expenditure represents about 2% of GDP, though that will increase to 2.3% over the next decade. However, it's reported that the United States would ideally like to see Australia's defence budget lifted to 3% of GDP. Australia will go to the polls in the coming weeks, and if coalition leader Peter Dutton is elected, he has vowed to spend much more on defence, though he has declined to put a number on it. What is clear is that, like so many other Western nations, governments are likely to have to dig deep into their pockets if they are to accommodate America's defence strategy in the years ahead. Roger Maynard, CNA, Sydney.